Welcome to the Wavemakers podcast by Tool. Hi, I'm Sol Medina Calboy from the Ocean Opportunity Lab. In this podcast, we dive in with fantastic female founders from around the globe, movers, shakers, and entrepreneurs who are changing the game in ocean and new energies. Let's dive in. Joining me in studio today from Australia is Pia Winberg, founder of FICO Health and Venus Shell Systems, a marine systems ecologist and entrepreneur, turning ecological problems into real world solutions. With over 25 years bridging academia and industry, Pia transforms overlooked environmental challenges into nitrogen pollution into regenerative, economically viable systems. Through FICO Health and Venus Shell Systems, she brings seaweed from research to reality, creating food, health, and skincare products while developing one of the world's few production systems capable of delivering consistent, traceable seaweed biomass of high value applications. Pia work shows that sustainability can be conceptual. It must be something we use and live by. A true pioneer in blue biotechnology, she connects science, society, and the economy to build tangible nutrient cycling solutions for the future. Welcome, Pia. Thrilled to have you on the Wavemaker podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
And tell us a little bit, what does your company do? Because we hear you have two companies. Can you express in maybe 1 minute what do you guys do?
Yeah, so Venus Shell Systems was the first company I started. The name Venus Shell is linked to my PhD, which was in marine protected areas. But prior to that, I worked in a master's degree at Stockholm University in catching nitrogen from coastal pollution, in that case, aquaculture, and turning it into something useful, and that was seaweed. So it's all about the system rather than just the seaweed. So I wanted to call that company Venus Shell Systems. But when we make seaweed and make products, the customer isn't really interested in the systems behind the scene. So we had to create a brand name, and the story of the brand and the purpose in the market is FICO, which is Latin for seaweed and algae, in phycology, the study of seaweed and algae, and health. So we're all about, we say, healing humans without harming oceans, and sustainability being the core purpose of Venus Shell Systems, and FICO Health delivering that in products to the people.
Amazing. And what personally moved you to academia to entrepreneurship?
Well, I always just followed the things that really motivate and interest me. And I always say that to people, whatever you do what motivates you, not what's going to bring you riches or guaranteed work, because it won't be much fun in the end if it's not something you love and are interested in and can keep learning from. So oceans always were something I loved from a child. I had been in Australia and got to go snorkeling, and the underwater world, when I saw it the first time, was like, wow, why didn't I know this was here? So I just always loved the ocean. And then when I went to university, wanted to do marine science. I did marine geoscience, marine systems ecology, really, marine biology to a degree, but it was really the ecological systems. And I got to do that at Stockholm University. And at Stockholm University, that's where they really pushed for the concepts of things like the ecological footprint back in the 1980s, 90s. And since then, of course, Stockholm University was where the 9 planetary boundaries has emerged, and people like Johan Rockström as well. And so that was really my insight into, well, the oceans and the marine systems are so important to everything around the planet and how we exist, eat, live, the climate. Even farming on land relies on climate that's driven by the oceans. And that if we disrupt these systems, we're going to, as we all know, end in trouble. So we really learned that the economy and the economy and environment go hand in hand and can't be separated. And I guess the strength of that understanding from Stockholm University, and you can't just study biology and ecology and think you're going to have an impact without involving the economy. And so that was really my frustration in seeing things that way and seeing that nobody's doing anything about putting the ecology into the economy. And so that's where I decided to, well, I'll have to just step out of academia and do it myself instead of just talking and publishing papers. My personal frustration is that that's not going to change anything. So why don't we step out and try and practice what we preach?
Yeah. And what was the biggest challenge of this jump from ecology to economy that you face? And becoming an entrepreneur?
Yes, I think the thing is that nobody understands you. And sometimes you feel like nobody even likes you because from academia, you're a black sheep and you jump into the dark, greedy world of corporates and business and making money. And it's like, I'm not making that much money in the beginning. And then the investors and everyone else is like, you're just geeky science nonsense, and you have to do things to make money first. It's like, so from both sides you just get hell. And so you're sitting in the middle being trying to be corporate and business minded, but at the same time you're science and you know how important these things are, but they don't make sense to business. So it's very hard to sit in this space, which is a little bit lonely.
And from being a scientist, I guess you have a certain structure to work. And I have read that you have created a lot of papers, like a lot of research and time you have dedicated. What was the breakthrough, like having this on you, using it in entrepreneurship? Was it something useful, positive for the transition?
Yeah, I think what was great was that during my master's research through Stockholm University, I got to go to Sri Lanka. And as I mentioned previously, I got to look there at the environmental impacts of tiger prawn farming on the coastal environment. So there was a big opportunity in Sri Lanka for prawn farming and aquaculture, as in many developing countries, to start creating revenue and opportunities for developing nations. But it did so in many cases at the cost of the environment that supports it. And in the end, disease spreads, comes back and kills the farms. And so it's no longer just an environmental concern, it's also an economic concern. And I got the opportunity to go to Sri Lanka and look at, well, what is the problem causing this, unsustainability of prawn farming? And as with most things in human society, it's our overuse of fertilizers and nutrients into the coastal zone, making the coastal zone unhealthy, and then expecting the tiger prawns to live on the unhealthy coastal water. And that doesn't work. And I guess I went there to look at, specifically in a technical sense, nitrogen is the biggest problem we have, in my view. And it's the first planetary boundary we've crossed if you follow the planetary boundaries. And so my point was like, well, how do we get rid of nitrogen from this system and protect the oceans? And one way I was looking at it was to all this complex chemistry in sediments and trying to turn it back into a gas through denitrification processes and up in the atmosphere. But the problem with that is that, one, we're putting something back up in the air that we're burning masses of fossil fuels to bring down from the air in fertilizers. And when it goes back up in the air that way, it's in a form of nitrous oxide that is 300 times worse than carbon dioxide for climate change. So in short story, that isn't going to work. The revelation at that farm for me was that, seaweed can catch nitrogen. And when you've caught the nitrogen in the seaweed, it's turning it into protein. And protein is food we need. So we can turn the biggest global food waste problem on the planet, which is nitrogen, whether it's from prawn feces, vegetable waste or flushing the toilet, it's all from the food system. And that nitrogen is wasted and killing the oceans. And so we have a resource that we can catch with seaweed and regenerate and put back into the food system. So when I went to look at the nitrogen chemistry cycles of those systems, seaweed jumped out to me as, wow, this is such a simple solution. It's what nature does, and we need to harness that in an economic sense to start becoming regenerative.
Yeah, it's a magic, almost circle of collaboration, and you have the facts through science, so you have the evidence already on your hands, supporting what you're doing and what you're believing, which I think it's beautiful work.
And it's only what nature does already naturally, and so we just have to relearn and practice what nature does anyway.
Love it. And looking ahead, a few decades ahead, what legacy do you want to leave? Like, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I have an idea, and it's there's a conflict in me as well about it's not so much a personal legacy, but I feel like my own purpose would be fulfilled if we could actually recreate a true regenerative circular economy at the scale we are at as humans. So what is the solution to the problems that we face today? We can't just cut half the people off the earth and start being more sustainable that way. And we can't just all go back to, very small scale inefficient farming because there's so many people and need for food. But seaweeds could actually reduce all of the 9 planetary boundary impacts. And that is nitrogen pollution and phosphorus, land use, because our seaweed grows 50 times faster than any land crops. We can grow on 2% the area of a land crop. We don't need fresh water because we use salt water, so we save fresh water. With the land use savings, you get biodiversity savings on land, and you're protecting coastal areas from deoxygenation and nitrogen pollution by reoxygenating the oceans. And so you protect biodiversity. And then it's lower energy requirements, and you don't have to suck the nitrogen out of the atmosphere to create fertilizers anymore because you're regenerating the fertilizers. And so then the carbon dioxide emissions, because 3% of carbon dioxide emissions in Earth today come from sucking nitrogen out of the atmosphere to make fertilizer. It's crazy. Yeah. And 50% of all of us are made of this air that's going into fertilizers to grow food. And people don't understand that. It's incredible. It's such a essential machine to our existence on Earth, and it is a key driver of energy needs and demands to catch this nitrogen and put it in fertilizer. And so then energy is saved as well. And we run a system with no waste streams and no chemical use. So that's another planetary boundary. And the planetary boundary that got breached this year in 2025, or we exceeded the limits of what we should do, is ocean acidification. And seaweed uses up carbon dioxide, buffers ocean water, and pushes the pH back up. So we de-acidify the water. So seaweed is actually a system that at scale can reverse these planetary boundaries. Yeah. And it's a little bit of my conflict that we don't like the big scale industries, but the big scale industries are such a big problem that the solutions themselves have to be big. So seaweed farming industries have to become big, and they have to be done sustainably and well. Yes. But they are a key part of our solution, in my view. And so that, I feel, is my legacy is not going to be in my lifetime to solve the issues, but at least to start us on a trajectory to a regenerative understanding and more sustainable system that could happen in the generations ahead.
Yeah, so that could be the contribution of your organization, like kind of showing the way or a best practice of how you could do this sustainably, respecting the cycle of life in a way, because it's also that seaweed grows faster than anything on land, right? So
Yes.
it's a different speed from land to ocean. So it's also, but that
Yes.
doesn't mean that doesn't need to be done caring for the impact. So
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
I see your
Conflict.
how do you
Yeah.
your conflict. I get it, because it's not yet there, right?
No, it's not yet there. And we have a way to go, and we need to do it properly. And that's the way, is that many inventions and innovations by humans and startups in history have been really good intentions. You know, even Kellogg's cornflakes was once nutritionally sound, and then the finance and the business model said, well, it's better to make it unhealthy. And so it failed,
Yeah.
you know. So every innovation, when profit becomes the purpose, becomes more important than the purpose, it gets unbalanced. And that's where we need to rethink, in my mind, is like, we can't have profits and shareholders above purpose, and we can't either have purpose above the profits and ability of a company so that it works. And these two things have to be in balance. And that's where the mindset of modern world's investment and innovation needs to change, because the grab and destroy mindset of profit above all else is what has led us to this position. And that is sort of another trajectory that I feel I would like to maybe have a legacy in, is that we can run a business for purpose and profit. It doesn't have to be just profit.
No, and we love that. At the Ocean Opportunity Lab, we're big supporters and believers on purpose, and we really admire what you do as a founder, and build up what you're building and standing on it. And yeah, we would love to cheer more your work. And we also acknowledge your strength, and we love that when we talk to you, female founders, that you have built what you have done, but also you have gone through a lot, and going through your kind of vulnerability and your learning beyond the business, because you also put a lot of yourself, so your challenge. So could you please share a personal or professional challenge that was a difficulty you face, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I think I have two key areas that I would see are the most difficult challenges, although in entrepreneurship, every day gives you a challenge that you didn't think, but there are many, many ones. And you slowly learn, yeah, okay, another challenge. How do I deal with this? And then I can move on to the next one. So you have to build a mindset of resilience and not let the small things get you down, and know that you can work through each of them. Just take a deep breath. I'm good at that. but I would have two challenges, and one that I've touched on a little bit, and that is bringing innovative and purposeful companies to the reality of the current financial systems and the corporate world where the money sits, and to get investment. And there's a lot of rhetoric about sustainability, but some of it's just greenwashing of products or people themselves. And it's very frustrating in that it's very hard to get real understanding and investment in purposeful and sustainable companies. And for those investors to understand that the science and research and knowledge has to grow with the investment, and that not every company is the strategy for a successful company is not always a unicorn that takes off in a few years, like a technical data-driven company. And when you're talking about food and food systems, these are quite big and slow systems, and customers have to learn, and regulators have to learn, and sustainable and safe food systems have to learn. And so it is a step-by-step iterative journey. And even though we have a big picture vision, I always say, take the next small step to success, because if you take big leaps forward, you can end up in big financial failure, which just isn't nice in the investment world. But you can't just sit in a research lab and say, we can't start because we don't know anything yet. You have to be prepared to learn on the journey. And I guess the traditional investor world's been very hard for me. And because it's financial people, they're different. And what's made me keep going has actually been crowd equity funding. So real investors, but they're people who don't normally invest. And now we have 1,500 shareholders in the company because I went to crowd and I said, customers and people who have some faith in this, you don't have to put in millions, just everybody put in a little bit and we can actually make something happen. And so it's not just investors on the journey with me anymore, it's people. And that's one of the biggest motivating factors for me on a professional level. And I think it's a powerful opportunity that exists today that wasn't as available maybe a decade ago. So that's sort of my professional challenge. And then I've had personal ones. So I've had a very bad accident in some of my research. And, I was very keen to look at how seaweed gels can work in the human body for health, gut health. We did clinical trials in. But what emerged was we had such amazing molecules that could work with wound repair and tissue repair. So I started with my colleagues doing work in that space. And that's where I went, be careful what you wish for. I'm a scientist, I think rationally, but hey, I wished to do wound healing. And then I got the biggest wound in my life. I was actually scalped. So totally scalped like an Indian in the old stories, in a machine that I was making my wound healing extracts from. And that's something you don't expect in doing seaweed innovation, but you have to work with bigger machines and you have to work sometimes on your own and late. And luckily I had someone available at the site that day, but I was fully scalped, lost the top of my head. I don't have any memory or trauma from it, but I did go into some robot mode, pull my scalp out of the machine, walk 200 meters to get someone to call an ambulance. They did, and a helicopter and ambulances were there within the hour, and they looked after me to stabilize me, flew me to Sydney and called in specialist surgeons who worked 6 hours trying to save my scalp. They couldn't in the end, so they took thigh tissue, and then that became a big graft site on my head. And then I've done 6 reconstruction surgeries since to get the scalp and the hair that I have remaining expanded and pulled across my head. So they have done an amazing recovery journey. But now, I'm used to wearing headscarves and scalp scarves because of that event that happened to me. And I learned a lot as well because I work now with clinicians who treat burns and wounds, and I could really start to understand the challenges that they face. And as an academic in research, even in medicine and health, they don't truly know what's needed in the world of medicine until you start working with these clinicians. And so it also added some maybe less desirable experience into some of the product development that we're doing today. So I walk the talk and have skin in the game. I say there's nothing better maybe than being immersed in the process, but maybe I went a bit too far, hey.
Yeah, and you keep so positive and energized, and it wasn't that long ago, or how?
No, 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, and 6 surgeries since until about 2 or 3 years ago. And Yeah, I because no one was, it wasn't like someone attacked me. And I guess it's, if you had had an attack or something, then you'd feel very negative about the experience, but it wasn't. It was a straightforward accident. And I had my hair tied
Yeah.
back, work cap on, safety glasses, hearing protection, and safe work investigators came in and said that was absolute freak accident. They would have approved everything I'd done before. It was just a very freak circumstance. And so I guess that nature of it, it's like you'd have no control of freak accidents, and then you're just grateful that you're alive, and then you're just grateful for everybody that worked to save your life, from the ambulance to the helicopters to the surgeon. All you can do is say thank you, because you would have most likely not survived that in without all these people. And so that's all you can really think is, wow, I didn't die, I'm lucky. So that's the only thing I can feel.
And your perspective about life, I guess, totally flipped from one day to another.
Yes, and then you realize, wow, well, I was 48 when that happened, and it's still, I've gone through a lot of life by then, but still you realize, wow, that we have to do stuff now. So that was really triggered me to, like, don't hold back, get it done. Don't feel like you're never ready or we've got plenty of time. We actually don't. So it really instilled in me that I was getting on with it, but let's get on with it faster.
Yeah. And I guess also that you were surrounded by people, the importance of community and family, and, like that you were surrounded to live, to survive as a human, but also as well your business, that you kept on going and that you keep on doing it and believing maybe stronger, because you're also kind of testing how beneficial it could be to your life. And we say that it takes a village to raise a baby, but also a startup. Moving on to your challenges with your companies, what has been the biggest hurdle right now? For example, pilots, funding, like you mentioned already, the funding, hiring or partners. Is there any?
There is now that we achieved some momentum. So what happened in the end is that, and why I started FICO Health, was that I couldn't sell sustainability. That wasn't a product really, and then no one cares about nitrogen really. So how do you turn that into a product? And seaweed is a product. And then trying to get food companies to take up the story and the mission with you, and they don't really understand the journey. And it's like, okay, nobody gets it. Nobody's buying the seaweed. What do I have to do then? I have to start making pasta. Why pasta? Because that's the national dish of Australia. Most nights of the week, spaghetti bolognese is eaten in Australia. So everybody in the world eats pasta. Pasta is one of the biggest energy batteries in the world. Starch is the photosynthetic molecule that's created to grow all the plants, and then that fuels the protein production in all the people. But pasta is a core to that energy. And so if you can put 10% seaweed in pasta, and if that went around the world, I'm not saying it will, but if that happened, that is going to be an enormous impact, because 10% of the wheat industry globally, or in pasta, is huge power. People don't understand that the size of that battery of energy that is driving people and fueling everything. So pasta for the planet was my mission, and then that was the first product. But then I had to start going to markets and selling it. See, people will eat it. It's pasta, because it's very hard to get people to eat seaweed, but it's not very hard to get people to eat pasta.
No,
and
exactly.
So it's a bit like an adult sneaking in the vegetables without the children seeing.
Yes.
So you just try and into food. And then when that started working, take the next step. Oh, it's actually got molecules very good for your gut. So go back to university with my colleagues and work with them on what some of the nutritional and gut health properties are. And that's as well when I met other colleagues and like, it's got interesting gels for maybe skin healing or wound healing in the science. Shall we do some studies there? So little bit by little bit, each successful project let you start building a new project. And so that's how we've been growing everything over time. And that is where patience is important. You just have to have a big picture vision, but know it's going to take lots of little steps and get those little steps achieved.
And how can we support you? How can Tool and the audience listening to this podcast support you on this mission?
Well, it's like you said, it takes a village to make the change. And I'm just one person now in this village. So I'm responsible for running a company, but we now have 1,500 shareholders. So now we're 1,500 people on this mission. And all of our customers are more thousands and thousands of people on this mission. And it's about understanding that you can include seaweed and sustainable food and products in the world in your life every day. Because what you do, if you're choosing that pasta every day, and like I said, if everyone around the world did that, it's a huge impact. And that's what happened with solar panels. Solar panel technology isn't big until everybody starts doing it. And that's where the message needs to resonate across geographical scales to start having the impact, and for people to start understanding that they can actually turn what they do every day into something more sustainable and beneficial to them and beneficial to the planet. We can have win-win in this world. It doesn't have to be win-lose. And it's just about our knowledge and what we choose every day. And I'm a strong believer that governments have an important role, companies have an important role, but the most powerful people in the universe are the people and the buying power. And through their knowledge directs the buying power. And when people purchase products with purpose, that's when we can have a true impact. And it's a thing that people either see you're an ecologist or you're an economy or finance person, but I think that's wrong. They belong together, and we need to understand and respect that is the reality of the situation.
Yeah, the awareness, I think it's huge. Kind of educating the market, it takes time for people to understand different ways of eating pasta, for example, that or adding seaweed into your food. I have done it for a while and I love it, but I was very curious about it. But not everybody has that. But I think making seaweed a bit friendlier or more approachable, it would be also like a good move. And talking about your dream scenario, which ideal partners or customers or investors do you want next? Feel free to name them.
Yeah, well, it's funny how we've made the company grow, and actually this year break into a space of profitability for the first time after 10 years of trial and error and investment and grant funding. And one of the drivers of that was for us to narrow in on one demographic, one of our product categories, and educate that market really with focus instead of we still, pasta for the planet is my dream. That's what I want to do, but it needs to be much bigger for that dream to be the reality of our everyday operation. We still have pasta and we sell it every day and I eat it. It's lovely, but it isn't pasta for the planet yet. And it's just sitting there for the day when it can be pasta for the planet. But meanwhile, we have molecules that are very exciting in the wound healing space, as we discussed. And that then led to skin care products for every day. And some of the very exciting molecules we're discovering in seaweeds have really never been explored before. And the opportunity to use these and replacing some animal-sourced ingredients in the market. And two of those really exciting are molecules that mimic hyaluronic acid in skincare, and that's why we can do 3D printed skin. And also the molecules that we get out of shark cartilage. So shark finning, shark cartilage supplements, chondroitin sulfate, glucosamine sulfate supplements in the world. It's a $10 billion industry, and a lot of it's based on illegal shark fishing in Southern America area and manufacturing in Asia. And that's a scary scenario, that there's a lot of illegal shark fishing and finning still going on for the fins. But that we have molecules that can replace this in terms of what is it you're seeking in shark cartilage for human health. And there are actually true benefits to humans from the molecules in shark cartilage. That is joint health, gut health, and even pets get health benefits from that. It's a bit like the bone broth story and things. There are real benefits there. But if we can replace those molecules with nearly exactly the same molecules from seaweeds, well, then we have opportunities in replacing some of the existing big impact industries on Earth. So it becomes a bit overwhelming in the end. It's like, wow, seaweed can actually do so many things, but isn't that true of land plants? So we have things like wheat. Already wheat does so many things. We make glucose from it, wheat protein, the gluten, the starch, and all the jelly beans in the world, breakfast cereals, and ethanol for driving the cars and for everybody's gin. So this is what wheat goes into. And so why don't we look at the opportunity in exactly the same way on seaweeds? They can be as diverse and as amazing as land plants, but they can balance the land plants' production for the impacts that they have and regenerate it. So the land and the sea and the cycle between them both happens in nature, and it needs to happen in food production and industry as well.
Yeah. So a bold ask from you to the audience and to everyone would be to consume a little bit of seaweed and read a little bit about it. Or what would be your bold ask?
It's like if I say for everybody, our phrase is said, healing humans without harming oceans. And if everybody did just a little bit of seaweed every day, and it does have to be in pasta or some supplements, or snacks are quite common now with seaweeds, and or your skincare, because there's really novel opportunities there. And if everybody had that in their mindset, that seaweed's like an apple a day keeps the doctor away, I think seaweed every day keeps the doctor away. And if we get our mindset around that, you don't have to have a lot. It doesn't have to be a smelly seaweed soup if you don't like that. There's many ways to eat it that, we don't eat raw garlic or raw meat very much. So why would we eat just raw seaweed and expect it to be wonderful? We have to use it in different ways. And I think my mission is that I can get seaweed into everybody in some way, even if they feel averse to it. And so, definitely just have in mind that something in seaweed should come into my life every day. And indeed, humans always did have seaweed in their lives until the modern food system. Every stone, I think 45% of Stone Age people findings have seaweed in their teeth, in the plaque. And so seaweed has been part of human societies from the beginning, and we just need to put it back.
I just thought about, like, we have here in Norway a tradition of eating tacos on Friday. I'm Mexican, so imagine like seaweed tacos will be delicious.
I have made seaweed tacos, actually. Corn chips. Corn chips with 5% seaweed. Yeah, we had them. We called them SEA, seas. So seas, corn chips.
Well, there's kind of a lot of, as you say, it's quite overwhelming, but it's doable. And if you could from the learnings you have had when you started, what would you wish you knew that you didn't?
I still feel this way, but I also realize through logic that I have always underestimated my knowledge and awareness and value, I guess, and always waiting for the answer, always waiting for the qualification, always waiting to be smart, and still waiting. And I guess that you learn that nobody knows. You always, many people put on a facade that they know things, and now I've learned that when someone tells me they definitely know something, then they probably definitely don't. And I think that's what I've taken so long to learn, and I feel a bit frustrated that if only I really understood when I was younger that I didn't understand everything, but neither did anyone else. And so we all just try. Yeah, we all just try our best and take forward steps together, and don't be afraid of trying. Everybody has a value, and everybody has an idea. Every idea needs to be heard and tested. And I guess that's what I would have told myself is, and then started earlier maybe. And but I anyway, never regret as well is, I think, important, and look back and go, well, it took a while, but we're getting there, so that's good.
Yeah, and it's also a very nice advice for new talents that are coming to the industry to trust your passion or your purpose, that it's something that drives you, and you don't need to have it all sorted out. Like, you will learn on the go, and also the community can help you.
Yeah, and peers and sharing, and always share. Like, people are afraid that someone's going to take their ideas, or like, you do have to be careful of some assets and intellectual property you've developed or something like that. But on the whole, you can still share ideas. The world there's so many ideas that we'll never get to resolving all of the opportunities, that sharing and learning from each other means we can all slot into a place next to each other that works and builds a better system. Whereas if we're just holding secrets for each other, we're all just reinventing the same wheel without knowing about it. But need to connect to each other and build on each other. And that's also a different kind of mindset in business, I think, that is needed.
Totally. And we totally believe in that and support that. And we believe that we're making the cake bigger, not each slice bigger. So, talking about spotlighting female founders, someone that has inspired you, can you name someone and tell us why?
Yeah, and I would name Dr. Helena Abro in Portugal. And one of the reasons is that, in theory, we're like competitors. We do a similar thing. So Helena has developed seaweed farming in land-based systems linked to aquaculture production and taken it to the food market. But always from the beginning, and it's going back 15 years maybe, or more now maybe, of having met Helena and us on both of our startup journeys, always sharing knowledge and information and our pain points, the struggles of investment, the struggles of being a scientist in a commercial world. And really, we just bonded over each of our experiences in doing similar things on different sides of the planet. And I think it's just such a great example of, we were parallels, and glad to share and connect. And she has helped me very much, motivate me. I've always admired Helena. And because I opened to crowdfunding, she's now one of my crowd shareholders. So I'm very proud that Helena is now part of our company, and I'm very proud of her achievements with her company, Alga Plus, in Portugal. And like with any community farming groups and things, we should celebrate each other's collective alignments, our slight differences, our different learnings, and bring them together, there's enough room for everybody. And I think that the open mind of Helena to be a partner, I guess, in our parallel universes in growth has been very helpful to me. And when you have really hard times, she's one of the only people that would understand really what I'm been going through in different ways. And although we don't see each other very often, it's just a very strong connection on the other side of the planet. And I feel her fight and she feels mine. So it would be Helena Abro in Portugal.
Amazing. We will reach out to Helena. And with regards to doors openers, do you have someone who supported you early on, who opened the first doors for you that you would like to mention?
Yeah, and I'll say that's someone totally different, someone who's not like me at all in theory, and someone who many of my closest friends or science colleagues would not have much in common with at all. But that is the owner of one of the largest wheat refineries and ethanol producing companies in Australia. And the group name is the Manildra Group, but they saw my fight, I guess, and my vision, and they are a large wheat producer. Like they have 3 1-kilometer train loads of wheat coming down every day to their wheat processing factory, and big companies like that, they're huge. The food industry is enormous. It's so hard for people to understand the scale of it, but when they're that big, they also then get a lot of criticism for the way that they're big and having a big impact on the world, but they're feeding everybody and we're all buying the food from them. So we're all part of that system. It's just that, and what they actually did was open the door. And for 10 years, I've been developing and learning how to use the carbon dioxide and nitrogen waste streams now, not from aquaculture, but from wheat. So every food processing system on Earth, whether it's fertilizer runoff on the Great Barrier Reef, whether it's nitrogen pollution in salmon farms, or in Adelaide in Australia now, there's massive deaths along the coastline from nutrient pollution and algal blooms that are where they shouldn't be in the oceans. And that can happen anywhere, and it's happening all over the world. In the Netherlands, there's nitrogen wars because of the pollution from all their food production. So Manildra opened the doors and let me set up a little scientific factory with a female founder in what is a very big corporate man's world. And that was the biggest break. And even when I had my accident on their site, I thought, oh no, now they're going to kick me out. But I just got a big bunch of flowers from the owner and a text saying, never give up. And I carry that with me.
Yeah, very nice. And paying it forward, what can you offer to other founders, like mentoring or introductions or partnerships? What can you give to the community?
Well, I've actually started to do that this year, and I'm so excited by it. I was approached by an oyster pearl farmer in Western Australia, and his connection to First Nations and Aboriginal people here in Australia who have it very hard. And Rosanna is such a gun in northwestern New South Wales. She's a woman of the remote tropical area above Broome. It's closer to Timor-Leste than it is anywhere else in Australia. And she's nurtured her cultural heritage, but also environmental heritage of the Sunday Island, which is a little island up there where her family has lived for thousands of years. And she started a marine protected area, and she's the chairwoman of that marine protected area. I did my PhD in marine protected areas, and I'm like, I don't have a marine protected area, but you have a marine protected area. But she they approached me and asked me, you know, could I help in developing her and mentoring and developing some products? And I said,
Amazing.
absolutely. Then now we have launched her brand of skincare, and that's like, it's next to my brand, and we've shared knowledge, her First Nations knowledge of traditional Australian plants like the kakadu plum, gabanj, with lots of vitamin C in skincare. We have pearl oysters from her region now, and powder. I've showed her how we can make a powder that can go into the skincare. And so now we have a partnership in her brand, Lange, which is the First Nations name for seaweed, L-A-N-G, and N-J-E. And she is, she's so, I see, happy for holding her new skincare products because of the collaboration with us. And I often see, again, that is the solution of the First Nations and startup opportunities, is that you can actually build something together that,
Yes.
again, is win-win. And that is my current focus. I really love learning from Rosanna, and I believe she loves learning from me, and she teaches me ancient wisdom and I teach her science approach, and
Yeah.
we it's great to work together.
Amazing. Powerful partnership.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the future generations, or the young audience who's listening to us. Uh, what kind of mindsets matter the most for young talent entering the ocean industry, in your view?
I always feel like you have to first have a mindset of curiosity. I don't think entrepreneurs have a mindset that they're an entrepreneur. Um, you can't, it's like, it's a bit weird. I think I've never said I want to be an entrepreneur. I've just said I'm fascinated by this. How does it work? How can I make it work? And
Yeah.
that's the mindset. And that's what I said in the beginning, is always follow what really fascinates you, because that's going to be the key to success, knowledge, the breakthrough, is to be very fascinated and curious about something. And it doesn't have to be the oceans, it can be technology, or it can be care or food production, or but stay curious is so important. And that should be your calling as an entrepreneur. There is no, this is how you start a company, this is how you scale a technology. You can learn from other people, but there's no cookie cutter approach, and you have to know your area deep inside and just stay infused in that space. And that's, I think, what if someone wants to have an impact, then follow what makes you excited.
Keep curious. I love it, Pia. And I enjoy so much talking to you, and we will follow closely. And yeah, we're so proud to have you on board with the Ocean Opportunity Lab. And to everybody, thank you for joining, and see you next time. And join Tool for the 10,000 female founders path for 2030. So join the community, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.